The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Media Clip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers. Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Pageau.
Hello again, and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Pageau, and today we're joined by Bryan Wetzel. Hi, Bryan. How are you today?
Hello. Good.
So, Bryan, when I discovered you on the service I used to book guests, I came across that you actually cut your teeth when you started out in business with the Nishika Corporation, which for a lot of our listeners will bring back some memories. Can you talk a little bit about your background and how you got involved in photography to start?
I wanted to be a photographer, so that's what I went to school for. But over decade or so, I ended up moving into film and video and TV. But in the beginning, I did mostly photography. My first business was a photography studio, a very large one. We did a lot of corporate stuff. But the getting to be at Nishika is an odd story because I had just come out of college. And this is in the days before cell phones. So I went home I was staying at my mom's house trying to figure out what I was going to get a job and move, hopefully. And she said, you got a call from this company that you applied for. And so I called the gentleman back, and it ended up being Dick Yost. He had managed 7 city blocks at Kodak before retiring and coming to Nishika. And I said, I just finished playing football with my friends in a field. I'm wearing a tank top and shorts. I need to shower and he said, yeah, we don't have time. We're closing it today. I said, then I don't want to show up like this. He said, oh, it's fine. Just come. And against my better wishes, I went, and they had interviewed a lot of people older than me with more experience, but we went through the lab and they kept quizzing me on things, and I had knowledge that the others didn't know. I apparently wowed them, and it was an R&D lab. I worked at their R&D lab. I didn't work where they were actually produced, but it was an R&D lab where we were doing experiments. So it was the best job in the world because engineers would come in and they'd say, here's a thing. We want you to test it. We would try and get different types of 3D or how big we could get the pictures. And it was also the craziest corporate story because people don't realize that Nishika was the second generation of 4-lens cameras.
Right.
The first was Nimslow.
Right.
Alan Lowe and Jerry Nims. And I believe it was Alan Lowe who gave most of the money from the corporation to the PTL, Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, sunk the company. But his partner, who had to sell the patents to Nishika in order to pay off their debts, started another company down the road with 3 lenses because the patent had 4. And I'm like, people have been listening in on my conversations with my girlfriend at work and stuff, but it was a crazy time. I was only 20 years old, and here I'm in a place where people are performing espionage. It was, trust me, there was so many. I could go on for an hour about that place, but it was an interesting way to get out into the corporate world and realize that maybe that's why I became an entrepreneur, because after that experience, I said,
you said no more of that.
No more of that. No.
So for those who don't remember, lenticular prints are still around. People are still doing that in a smaller scale, obviously, but they're still around. That was a 4-lens camera that shot a sliver of an image on half of a frame on 35 millimeter film, and then you would display that across through an optical process. It was pre-digital, obviously, and then you'd have this lenticular print. You'd have the appearance of a 3D picture, correct?
So we had 220 lines of lenticular lenses that were essentially cut into the plastic, and when you would print it, you would move through the negatives. You would print the first negative. The machine would start this way. Then it would switch to the next negative, and it would print. It would switch to the next negative, and it would print, and then it would do the fourth. And so they came up with, for the cameras, they had created their own little 1-hour lab, but it wasn't 1 hour back then. You had to send the film off. You get it a week later.
Right.
And that was in Las Vegas, where the headquarters was. And we experimented more with large format. So we had a professional studio where we would move. So the bigger the so if you're taking a picture of a house, that camera probably won't give you a lot of 3D because there's not enough parallax between. So we would experiment on rail systems where you would move a 35 millimeter camera. And we experimented with all kinds of stuff. We had a large format printer that was in the back room that was as big as a tractor trailer that we built from scratch. It was pretty primitive, but they were trying to figure out how to do billboards and stuff. And that company went out of business eventually as well. I've determined that people who go into 3D are all crazy. We would get people, I never even knew this would be a thing. We would have people come to our office and say that for instance, we had a guy out of Florida. He was retired. He came because he wanted to tell us that 3D wasn't created because of parallax. It was created because the Earth rotates. And they stuck my partner and I, who we were 20 and 21. They were like, give it to the young kids. This is not worth our time. So we were in a board room trying to convince him that's not true, that it's been well founded. That's why, by the way, if anybody's listening, in quick education, all predator animals have their eyes separated so they can see 3D, but animals that are eaten, that are predated on, have their eyes to the side so they can see more danger coming from all around.
Right.
But so we went in. I remember telling him, I said, if we turned all the lights off in here and I hit a flash with a flash bulb, we would see in that split second 3 dimensions in here because our parallax. It's not because the Earth is rotating.
Yeah.
3D. I didn't understand it, but
that doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah.
And we kind of left it with, we'll take a look. We'll write this down and consider it. Thank you. We'd have people stop in all the time or write us letters about their theory on 3 dimensions.
Wow, that must have been. And so what was the time frame on this? This would be, what were the years on this? Like the 80s or something?
This was 88 to 90.
Okay.
And then they sent me to Las Vegas. I worked there for about 6 months, and it was even crazier out there. And my partner who went out to Vegas with me got a job at NASA. I would have to go back and forth from Los Angeles to Las Vegas occasionally because we were trying to work with Industrial Light and Magic at the time. We knew that 3 dimensions in a computer would be the future.
Right.
We wanted it so that you could do polarized glasses in a theater, but real animated. Instead of having to shoot it with a camera, they had 2 lenses for film. And we just could never get it to work at the time.
Right.
Some of it looked really cool, and I loved going there. But when I was out there one day, I just said to somebody, "Yeah, you got any jobs hanging? Might be willing to move to go to this company." And lo and behold, I ended up working on a film. And I got called back to Nishika because we did the instructional video with Alan Thicke. People may not know that. We also did a commercial with Little Richard. I shot those.
Oh, okay.
And both of the instructional video was fairly uneventful, but the one with Little Richard was not at all. And a lot of interesting stories out there about that shoot. But a very large entourage, more than we realized we didn't have the space for.
Right.
I cut my teeth. I went from there to Estee Lauder. I actually was there, but none of my paychecks said Estee. And I never even went to the company that was paying me. I got hired. They apparently contracted it out. And then I traveled around the country doing whatever they needed me to photograph. I wasn't doing the actual ad photos. It was all kinds of other stuff.
So you translated from this R&D skunkworks kind of thing to commercial photography, right?
Yeah.
So was that where your education was when you went to college? You said it was in photography. Was that in the shooting side, or what was your interest in that?
Yeah. I went to school to be a photographer, and my minor would have been film.
Okay.
But I also back then you also had to get chemistry.
Right.
You had to get a lot of chemistry because everything was chemicals. We had to process the film, and if you were printing, you had to process your print paper.
Oh, sure.
I loved it because all they did was they would say, go out some of the assignments were just go out and it needs to be a beauty picture. Just give me something that's award winning and it needs to have people in it, or this can be a nature photo, or this needs to have leading lines. Or once we had to go find a barn so we could demonstrate the zone system, it needed to be a red barn with the white stripes and the tin roof so it'd be bright. And we were shooting with a 4x5 camera. We used to bracket a lot of the exposures,
Sure,
if they were questionable, because you didn't want to get back and process the film. And as they always used to tell us, reshoots are expensive.
right,
Film is not.
right.
And now you don't have that. You just look at it digitally and go, "That's good."
Yeah, or I'll tweak it in post, right?
Yeah, I hate that. A lot of people. This is the thing. People would see the movies. I was doing a music video. This will illustrate this. For out in Nashville, and it was for an R&B group. And he came in and he started describing this thing. You've seen The Matrix? I want to do. And after he was done, I said, what is your budget? He said, I got 10 grand. I said, you're going to need to get another 300,000 at least, because the technology, this is not today. I could probably do that in AI in no time. Right. But back then, that would have required a whole team of digital animators and green screen shoots, and that would have been a good 6 months. But people seem to think that it had become easy. And so you'd be on a shoot and something would go wrong. They said, we'll just fix it in post. And I'm like, you said the wrong line. What am I fixing? We can re-record his voice. And I said, but his lips are not going to match.
Right.
Yeah, that became the fix it in post thing used to make me really irritated. We're right. We got the crew, we got the lighting people. Why would we fix it in post? Do it now.
Let's do it the right way.
Yeah.
So from there, you got into some video production, which I think is interesting because that's a different skill level than still photography, right? It's a different aesthetic. It's a different look. It's a different feel. It's obviously different cameras, different technology. Was that an easy transition for you to make? Was it just a natural?
No, it wasn't at all. And I worked with other people to cut my teeth and try and see what the differences were. I even went on some productions for free. I'm like, I need to, because in film, this takes me back. You could get a different speed film.
Right.
You go down to 200, 100, even below that, depending on your situation. In video back then, video was nothing like it is now. We were shooting originally on 3/4 inch, and then we moved to beta. But the chips were beautiful if you had good lighting.
Right.
But it was not good in low light. You had
absolutely right.
And it got grainy if you tried to blow it up. It got grainy if it was low light, and you tried to let the camera do the work for you. So you could tell a bad production from a good production. But I think my iPhone today probably does better than those. I have an old Betacam in the closet. That cost me $40,000 in 1994. Right. That couldn't do the imaging that my phone does now. And what happened was I saw the future. Oh, really quickly. The reason I switched to video from film was because if you're going to do corporate work, or if you're going to do instructional videos, even for Nishika, they don't want to pay for a film shoot. That's an expensive. So once video became at least viable for that type of stuff, that's where all the work was moving.
Right.
And it was a plus that I could still do the photography with it.
Right.
Because I could offer that service.
Right.
But I had to switch to video. It was just a necessity. But I switched to digital. I was probably the first in the state of Georgia to switch to digital. It was because the Olympics were coming in 96. So I switched in 93, had a Media 100 and an Avid, but we were charging $350 an hour.
Right.
Because we were the only ones. And then I got the digital cameras right before the Olympics, and that set us apart when they were just getting big because they wanted these digital cameras that Canon had come out with.
Right.
And there was still digital tape. And when it came to digital, by the way, this is what happened with that too. I had rented a digital camera because I needed a third camera for 2 Betacam shoots. The digital camera looked so good compared to the 2 beta cameras. I was like, what am I doing here? So I sold the Betacam cameras while they still had some value.
Right.
And the digital cameras were so much cheaper. Even back then, you could get a broadcast quality digital camera for $6,000, seven, maybe a little more, depending on what if you got interchangeable lenses. And so I ended up coming out with money on that deal. But yeah, as soon as everyone heard that we had digital, it was unbelievable. Coca-Cola Enterprises at my door, at IBM. I made a living off of corporate stuff, and I didn't want to do corporate originally, but it paid so well.
Yeah.
And
so what was your original interest, if not corporate?
I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be Spielberg. I wanted to be Coppola.
Yeah. But that was part, you lived in Georgia, right? And that there was no real film industry back then. But back then,
it's one of the biggest. But back then, no, you had to leave the state. And that's funny because just as I was getting out of film, making movies, the TV and film industry came here. But no, back then you had to get out. So it was either corporate or you had to go where the movie industry was. Now, that's not true. There were occasional films that shot here.
Sure.
But for the most part, you couldn't make a living.
Okay.
And Hollywood brought their people here when they came here, for the most part.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't any talent to work on the film, that experience.
But there was the film incentives is the reason with the tax write-offs and all that kind of.
Yeah. When Georgia, I think that would be Sonny Perdue, the governor, they did it right. So other states offered tax incentives, but Georgia offered one thing that it was unbelievable how many film studios, even now, I think there's 5 huge studios just near me. And Ozark was made here, Stranger Things. But what they did was they made the tax incentives transferable. So I know I met an attorney who got out of being an attorney and all he did was, if you wanted to do a film here, I would say, look, I'm spending this much. I'm going to have $300,000 in tax incentives. If you have a corporate client who would like to buy those from me so that I can fund my film now, they were transferable. I could sell the tax incentive. He would broker the deal. And so you could get funding without having to take a loan.
Sure.
That made all the difference in the world. There's a lot of corporations here. And so you could say, hey, I can sell you $300,000, $500,000 worth of tax credits. All you have to do is pay me $450,000 to buy it.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant thing.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of states have tried it and it hasn't. I live in Michigan and we tried it and gave up on it. So it just hasn't worked out so
But did they make them transferable?
They did an analysis after 10 years and they found out that not only we're basically paying people to make movies here, but there was no industry established here. Like you say, it was people coming in, just filming and leaving. And then there was actually the number of film jobs in Michigan actually dropped because of that.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't wildly successful. Let's put it that way. We don't have one right now. We don't have a film program. And Evernote is always looking at, should we have one? Should we restart it? How can we do it?
I had a friend who worked on Sleepy Hollow when it was being shot here, when it was on TV. He said that when they were in the pitch meeting, they said, we're going to shoot it in Georgia because we can sell those tax credits. So that's the key. And I've seen other states, I think Florida's now making their tax credit transferable. People have moved here now there's people all over the place, Georgia.
So, but then you stayed in that, you were in that for a long time, but then you didn't stay in it. What happened with your next step?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Photo retailers, energize your sales with ShareMe Chat, the proven texting platform. Using chat to text on your website keeps your customers connected and buying. See us at Pro and IPI to find out why dealers using ShareMe Chat close more sales without adding staff. Find out more at shareme.chat.
So it was still in video. What happened was I had a friend and we decided to start a corporation that we made educational videos.
Sure.
Where that used real teachers.
Okay.
And we didn't know about Khan Academy, they weren't out yet, but they were apparently in production, and Bill Gates was giving them millions. We created twice as many videos of theirs and on 10% of the money they got. But we made well over 1,900 or 1,500 videos and 1,900 assessments that were all video with real teachers. So I had set up a studio, and I used my live production experience to be able to shoot, because it's not going to be able to edit 1,500 videos forever. It'd be too expensive. We set that up, and then I just spent the next 3 years, 4 years, just all I did was shoot math, English, history videos with the teachers. I had it set up so we could do it live, where they could tell us straight live. And all I had to do was put the front on and then put the ending credits on.
Sure.
And even that I got to where I was able to do some of that in live.
Right.
But I always sweeten up the audio, and then I'd get them out on the internet. We had a site set up, and then eventually that was sold to a company out of California that was doing an even larger site for schools. So that took me away from the industry. By the way, while I was doing that, I was still contracting at Cox Media Group here in town. So I just went underground to the corporate side of things.
So what was your idea that education was a market for those kind of videos? So just because there was so much content there, and what was going to be the delivery system? Was it going to be the internet or a subscription service, or what? I'm trying to figure out why you thought, oh my gosh, that's a great opportunity.
I think it was because when we were planning this, it would have been in 2008. There were videos on YouTube, but they were people doing really rough video quality video.
Sure.
Or on an overhead projector in some cases. We used to send our videos out to 3 other teachers and get them to quantify that this video is accurate.
Right.
You can actually see all the videos because we received them back, or the rights to them. They're on YouTube now under scoobsed.com, SKUBESED.com, on Twitter, but it's on YouTube. But to answer your question, we just thought that I thought we can do a way better job at this.
Right.
And we did. The quality, I'm very proud of those videos. I wish the company had done better, but what we did is we set up a site that had in there, and we made it so that the teachers could create playlists out of the videos and then assign those as homework. Because our pitch was, and we would sell to school systems all around the country, the pitch was easy. Textbooks have gone away. When I was a kid, whenever I had trouble with my math homework, my dad, by the way, was a CPA, so he loved math. I liked math. So we would fight a lot. But when I couldn't do my math homework, he would say, okay, open up your textbook. And then we would go through the example, and a lot of shouting and fighting. And at the end of it, I could do that math problem or that math homework because the textbook walked me through what I was supposed to do.
Step.
But the textbooks went away. And so now they say, go out on the internet and find it yourself. And we just thought that's absurd. A teacher should say, here's the video you should be watching because this lines up with what I'm teaching. And at the time, Common Core was a year away from coming, but we thought we'll get a jump on that and be the first. The funny thing is the schools loved it. We couldn't get investors for the seed round or the second round, really.
Right.
It's hard to pay people to go all around the country selling something unless you can pay them.
Yeah.
I want to get paid.
It's crazy that these people want to get paid for what they're doing.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit, if you can, about your other ventures. You've done a grill, you've done a gym, and I think you're still involved in some of the other projects. So can you talk a little bit about kind of that evolution? Because none of those things seem like they're contiguous in terms of their journey.
So it's a longer story than we probably have time for, but when I had my production company, I didn't know how to run a business.
Right.
Had already had a couple failed little studios. Mostly I also had partners who didn't pull their share.
Right.
So I started it, and I went out to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and there I was like, who here is they pointed to this older guy, and they were like, but he's very difficult. He's grumpy and he's a curmudgeon. And I don't know if you want to talk to him, but I found out he had 3 businesses and he was very successful. So I walked over to him and waited my turn. And I said, I will buy you lunch once a month at any place you choose if I can pick your brain for an hour.
Right.
And he looked at me for a minute and a few seconds, and he said, okay, but you have to bring a notepad with predetermined questions. We're not going to meander. We're going to get things done. and you have to have a pen so you can write down and make notes. And after about 2 years, I would say after the first year, ran out of, a lot of our lunches were just friendly lunches that we'd become close. He taught me how to run a business.
Right.
And I wanted to share that. So I started doing some speaking engagements to small business communities. But then I got into the gym by pure accident. I was tired of contracting at Cox Communications and Cox Media Group. And it was getting very ridiculous there too. But the gym I worked out at put up a sign that we're closing. And so I worked up a business plan over the weekend and I went in and made an offer, but I eventually got it. Probably one of the best deals ever made. And I still have it. That was 2017. The restaurant up the street from us also went out of business, and we had been going there,
struggling,
slowly going downhill. And it was the reasons why I was going downhill were glaringly obvious. Very bad service, inconsistent food. I told the owner who had invested in the restaurant, I said, look, if you make the deal sweet, something I can't pass up, I'll come in and take over. We'll change the name. We'll get a new menu. I didn't realize how much work that was, by the way.
That seems to be a recurring theme, I've noticed.
Yeah. But the restaurant is worse. Plus, we opened up 3 months before lockdown.
Right.
So we were killing it. And then all of a sudden, boom.
Right.
So we came out of that struggling big time. It really crushed us. And then we started picking up in 2021. I was like, okay, we're out of the woods. And people loved the restaurant, but a lot of people weren't going out. Right. Yeah. That year. People forget how freaked out people were.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
And the guy who ran my kitchen, Jermaine, great guy. Everybody loved him. Everybody knew him there. He was the kitchen manager, but everybody who came into the restaurant waved to Jermaine. And he was hit by a drunk driver leaving our place on New Year's night. So it would have been 2022 by then. And that just really took the wind out of things. And I caught my manager stealing cash. So now I'm running it. And to run a restaurant and try and do your other stuff, it was just killing me. I was never home, never sleeping. And my wife finally said, look, it's me or the restaurant. And couldn't figure out which one was more expensive to leave, but I wanted to stay with my wife. So I sold the restaurant for not very much, but enough to just walk out. And I write books now. I have 2 books out. And that's really because I need a creative outlet. Right. I've been creative my whole life. Sure. The gym is wonderful. Writing is the path for me to just get my thoughts out and create stuff and make me feel like I'm productive.
So what are some of your lessons you learned back then when you're having lunch with that gentleman that really solidified you that you could run a successful business? What are some of the 2 or 3 things that, not having a business background, but having some business failures in your past that you said, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known this?
One of them was learn to say no without explaining yourself. And one of the things he told me is that a lot of times we say yes to things we regret later, either because we don't want to seem like we're a jerk or because we want the money, even if it's not enough or small. And then you end up realizing I'm working really hard for not what I'm worth. Right. And the explaining yourself in that, he said, is the key, because once you explain yourself, it becomes, this is a debate. Or it's a negotiation. He said, this goes even to your family and friends. If your friend says, can you help me move this weekend? But you've already promised your wife or your kids or your girlfriend that we're going away. You say no. You don't say no because I'm going out of town on Saturday at noon so that your friend can say, we'll start at 8. We'll be done. Not a negotiation. But I don't have time. This is what I'm doing. I can't do it. The other one was, and this is a biggie, is don't love your business, but don't fall in love with your business. Right. Because when you fall in love with your business, and it's hard not to, because it's your baby, you created it from the ground up. Right. But it's hard to walk away from a girlfriend, or from a relationship that's bad. And it's just as hard to walk away from something you've spent your heart and soul and a lot of money. And you have trouble when you're falling in love with your business, recognizing when the end of the road may have already passed you. And so now you're just throwing good money at a bad situation and top it up. That was the biggie. His other one, and I tell people, this is the first thing I tell people when I do a speech to small business owners, is that you need to do a business plan. If you can't write down how you're going to get from point A to Z and actually see it work out, back then it was on paper, but now it would be in a computer. If you can't see the financials and how you're going to make the money when you compare it to all the expenses that you may forget if you're just thinking about it in your head.
Sure.
You can't keep all that in your head. Because also, by the way, your heart and your head sometimes will lie to you, but you haven't considered taxes, regulations, all these things that might escape you. But when you start going through it, you'll see real quick. I've done business plans twice, maybe three times, where someone wanted me to help or get involved in a business where I put it on. I use a site called Live Plan. They don't sponsor me or anything. They let you walk through everything, even financials, all the stuff you need to write, things to consider. If you can't see it work out, the only way to make it work out is to cheat.
Right.
Of course, we'll get more customers than put down here.
Right.
If you keep it real, you should be able to walk away from. By the way, anybody who's never had their own small business, it's a lot of work.
Right.
Don't go into it lightly. And if you can't see it work out, it is going to be a lot of work and you're going to be very upset with yourself.
Yeah, because that is one of the things where I think small business owners and entrepreneurs can become somewhat delusional, if you will.
Yeah.
If we just double down on this thing that's not working, we can gut through it and make it work. And you see it over, and it's sad, but it's because I think because people are told in the business community, you need is passion and belief that you can make this happen.
And it's those things good. They don't pay the bills.
You have to have that passion to get up at 4 a.m. to do that stuff to get there. But if you don't have a real business,
there was a Subway shop up the street from us. They were 2 blocks over from a Subway, and they did sub sandwiches. And theirs were better, by the way, because they were handmade, they were thicker. And he was struggling, and he came and asked for my help. I said, why are you charging what you're charging? He said, because that's what Subway charges. And I said, okay, first of all, you don't get the deals on supplies that they get because they order them through the corporation in mass. I said, second of all, you're doing a custom sandwich that's a little thicker and everything, and people will pay for that.
A little more.
And I said, and just second of all, you can't compete with Subway. You have to set yourself apart by being that, hey, our subs are handmade right in front of you. I know Subways are, but it's all very measured and everything. Everything's cut in-house, and he cooks in the morning. He makes all the bread himself. I said, you can charge a little bit for that. But I just said, if you had done a business plan, I asked him, did you do a business plan? He said, no, I've been in this business for 20 years working for other people. I said, I get that, but you weren't paying the bills, paying the labor. You weren't paying the taxes. There's other things than just working as a manager in the business. And
absolutely
you really need to know that. Now, people often too, and I'm guilty of this, I come from the production industry. I think I know probably in my head what'll work and what won't.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm right with it. So many moving parts.
Sure.
And you really need to put it down because look, I'm a list maker. I make lists. Every day. And if I don't get it done, it goes to the top of the next day's list and has to be the first thing.
Right.
And if you read the 7 habits of highly effective people, this is on it from every single one of them. Yeah. And this is like the business plan checklist.
I agree. It's people try to make things more complicated than they need to be, right? And really, most businesses come down to the same sort of core functions.
A lot of them do make one mistake when they come to me. They're like, I'm struggling. I'm like, where did you cut them? We cut our marketing, but we have sales going on right now. And I'm like, how are they going to know about the sales? You're missing the logic there. You need to market the sale. Otherwise, the sale is just in people who come in every day who are not enough, obviously, to support the business, or you wouldn't be cutting your budget, are going to be the ones taking advantage of the sales. You need to pull people in. And maybe the marketing budget wasn't the right thing to cut. Maybe other places that are smarter.
Right.
But they don't see it that way.
Speaking of writing things down, where can people go for more information, learn about Bryan and the things you do?
So we set up a site that way you can just go to the website, and it's got all my social media. It's got my books. So I don't have to give out 20 addresses, and it's BryanThomasWetzel.com, BryanThomasWetzel.com. Great.
Bryan, I've learned a lot from this, and I've gotten a lot from it. I think we could probably talk even longer if we wanted to, because it sounds like you've got a lot to share, but I appreciate your time. Yeah. And maybe we'll connect again on another time.
Yeah, I'd love that. My wife says I never shut up, so I have enough to fill at least another podcast or two.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.